We are live. Om Ganana Tva Ganapatikam Avamahe Kavim Kavinam Vashravastamam Jyeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspata Anashrinvannodipasi Sadanam Mahaganapataye Namaha Prano Devi Saraswati Vaje Virvajinivati Dhinam Vitrevatu Mahasaraswati Namaha Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Guruve Sarvalokanam Shije Bhavaroginam Nidiye Sarva Vidyanam Sri Dakshinamurtaye Namaha गुरुचरणारविन्दाभ्यां नमः। देवीं वाचमजनयन्त देवाः तां विश्वरूपा पशवो वदन्ति सा नो मन्दिरेषु मूर्जन्തുहाना धेनुर्वागस्मानुपतिष्ठितैतु व्यासं वसिष्ठनप्तारं शक्ते पौत्रमकल्मषं पराशरात्मजं वन्दे शुकदातं तपोनिधिं व्यासाय विष्णुरूपाय रूपाय विष्णवे नमो वै ब्रह्मनिधये वासिष्ठाय नमो नमः। श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। शिवशक्तिसमारम्भां भास्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मश्रीनाथपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। श्रीललिता महात्रिपुरसुन्दरी समेत श्रीचन्द्रमौळीश्वराय नमः। श्रीकाञ्चीकामकोटिपीठाधिपति जगद्गुरु श्रीशङ्कराचार्य श्रीचरणयोः प्रणामाः। स्वस्ति श्रीमदखिलभूमण्डलालङ्कारत्रयत्रिंशत्कोटिदेवता सेवित श्रीकामाक्षी देवी सनाथ श्रीमदेकाम्रनाथ श्रीमहादेवी सनाथ श्रीहस्तगिरिनाथ साक्षात्कार परमाधिष्ठान सत्यव्रत रामाङ्कित काञ्ची दिव्यक्षेत्रे शारदा मठसुस्थितानाम् अतुलितसिद्धारसमाधुर्य कमलासन कामिनी धम्मिल्ल सम्फुल्ल मल्लिका मालिका निष्यन्द मकरन्दझरी सौवस्तिक वाङ्निगुम्भ विजृम्भणानन्द तुन्दलित मनीषमण्डलानाम् अनवरताद्वैत विद्या विनोदरसिकानां निरन्तरालङ्कृतीकृत शान्तिदान्ति भूम्नां सकलभुवनचक्रप्रतिष्ठापक श्रीचक्रप्रतिष्ठा विख्यात यशोऽलङ्कृतानां निखिलभाषण्डषण्डकण्ठकोद्धाटनेन विशदीकृतवेदवेदान्तमार्ग षण्मतप्रतिष्ठापकाचार्याणां श्रीमत्परमहंसपरिव्राजकाचार्यवर्य श्रीजगद्गुरु श्रीमच्छङ्करभगवत्पादाचार्याणाम् अधिष्ठाने सिंहासनाभिषिक्त श्रीमत् चन्द्रशेखरेन्द्र सरस्वती संयमीन्द्राणाम् अधिष्ठाने सिंहासनाभिषिक्त श्रीमज्जयेन्द्र सरस्वती संयमीन्द्राणाम् अन्तेवासिवर्य श्रीमच्छङ्करविजयेन्द्र सरस्वती श्रीपादानां च चरणधरणयोः सप्रश्रियं साञ्जलिबन्धं च नमस्कुर्मः. Super. So glad you're joining, and even Bhuvana is joining in a couple of minutes. This is good. Tell me honestly, so far, whatever I have been talking, is it sort of hitting the right target? Are you able to appreciate what this Mundaka Upanishad is all about? Are there any places where you want me to repeat something very difficult to understand, too dry? What is your feedback?
Like we have to read again and again. Like it is not the one-time process. It is easily going into the mind. Like it is my opinion.
Okay. Good feedback. What else? Rekha, Manimannan. Mute. If you're talking, you're on mute, Manimannan.
It has deeper meaning and deeper understanding it requires.
Okay. Is there anything that you want me to repeat anywhere where it's absolutely not clear? My explanations are not on spot. You were saying something, Manimannan?
Yeah, class, the slokas, you explain the meaning, and also you are able to bring on the context. But most of the slokas are still very general statements, right? Okay, so because of that, the retention seems to be less for me.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So that's fair feedback, and I wouldn't deny it because I've gone through the same process.
Okay.
Right. So I've gone through a similar process of learning, and it took me many years for even getting the grasp of what is being talked about, for two reasons. I am not an expert in Sanskrit, so if somebody starts giving 10 different shlokas in Sanskrit as an explanation to one mantra here, it makes it even more complicated for me, and I'm lost. And I've also experienced the same thing, that a lot of terminologies, when it's used without a context, can be overwhelming at times. But I will assure one thing. Okay, let me just hold my thoughts. Bhunaji, now perfect timing you joined. Ramar Kara. Landscape போட்டுருங்க உங்களோட இது ஐபேட் or ஐஃபோன் whatever you're using. If you can put it in landscape, we can see both of you. And ரெண்டு பேரும் நல்லா ஜம்முன்னு சிவா பார்வதி மாதிரி பக்கத்து பக்கத்துல உட்காந்துக்கலாம். நான் சொன்னது கேட்டல? Maybe you can change it into landscape mode or something. So I was just trying to explain, and each one of them shared their feedback. I asked a question. So far, how are you finding Mundaka Upanishad? Are you able to grasp some meaning, a lot of meaning, or is absolutely not connecting, making any sense, context puriya matengirudhu? So each one shared their feedback. Padmaji said it's a lot of repetition of reading and listening that is required to comprehend what is being talked about. Manivanan சொன்னது வந்து the mantras are so far in a general statement, and obviously when I'm explaining things it is easy to understand, but because of the nature of the topic the retention is difficult. அப்படின்னு அவரோட feedback கொடுத்தார். Rekha is still contemplating what to say, so I will give her more time. நீங்க உங்களோட feedback சொல்லுங்க, அதுக்கப்புறம் then I will share mine.
Yeah, for me also, when you explain, I can understand even to the depth you teach or you explain. But what remains with after 2 or 3 weeks, how much I can remember is far less. But wherever I have taken notes, that helps me a lot.
Sherry. Ram, ungalukku? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and you are talking about detachment, right? So I can make a decision that I don't need this, I can live without this. That kind of things I'm able to make a resolution.
Detachment ரொம்ப
நான் இப்போ immediate சொல்றதா இருந்தேன். I was about to comment on that immediately. I just wanted her to finish. Sometimes சார் நம்ம வந்து குவைட்டா கேட்டோம்னா நம்ம லிசனிங் மூட்ல நிறைய விஷயம் வெளியே வரும். So it's all don't panic.
Yeah. See, for me, it's exactly something. I mean, what all the things which have been said is true. See, for me, I feel that when I listen to you, like Bona said, it's so good. It's like taking a pledge on January 1st that I'm going to do practice to the marathon and then do that thing.
Correct.
Kind of thing, feel in your mind. But then the Lokika Vishayala just pulls you down, not able to see the time, but then you feel, oh, I wasted time. So all kinds of struggles, internal struggles are there, but it's so good. At least it makes you feel 1 hour of satisfaction.
Okay.
I think the problem is, as somebody said, you have to keep listening and then digesting it.
Good. So I'll continue where I was about to respond. Point number 1. I empathize with each one of you because I have gone through the same path. It took me nearly 8 to 9 years of some kind of reading, voracious reading. And when you say reading, I don't think I am not blessed, even after having a library like this, I'm not blessed to have all the books at my disposal in a language that I can understand. I also did not have the luxury of a dedicated guru that will keep teaching me everything every day or once in a week also. My Veda guru passed away a long time back, but our Sri Vidya guru is not somebody who is going to be sitting and coaching you and tutoring you and explaining you. He gives you guiding principles, and he has Mama and Guruji has got their own Upanyasams from where we pick up a lot of things, and we are truly blessed for that. But at the end of the day, one thing I realized is you just have to keep going at it over and over again. If there is a commitment to understand what you want to understand, that is first. Unless you have that appetite, it's not going to make sense. That is number 1. So don't despair or don't panic if it takes time. It has got nothing to do with your IQ or your intelligence or your performance or commitment or anything. The subject is abstract to a certain level. and it takes time. Second, the reason why I'm giving it in such a layman's language, which if a expert authority watches my YouTube, he'll say, what is this guy doing? Like, he's talking like a moron. They have the right to form that opinion. I'm not teaching you wrong things, but I'm trying to put it in a language that is easy for us to comprehend, which is what I committed when I started Vedic Sampradaya. So I will continue that explanation, and the fact that it is available on YouTube gives you enough scope to say, I will listen in when he's talking, but I can take notes after I go back and replay the YouTube and play it. You can pause, rewind, replay. You can do many things with YouTube, right? That's the advantage. So don't sort of get overly concerned that I'm not able to take notes, and if I don't take notes, my retention is poor, etc., etc. The good news is what you thought you're not able to retain, that you just didn't understand, and if I ask you questions, you fumble or you're clueless. It takes time, and when it takes time, you will see all of the learnings that you're putting in today will come out at the right time when you want it. So that's one thing that I can assure you. So if you spend so many hours now, it's not a waste, it's not down the drain. It will come back to you. That's for sure. Unless you decide to take an eraser and wipe things off. Subconsciously, it retains in your memory. It is just that you need that right hook to connect the dots, and then you can hold it and say, okay, now I got a grasp of the subject. Right? That's so have some patience. Most important message, and especially for Bhuvanaji, because I see that there is a lot of concern on that. How many of you have gone to Kailash Mansarovar? Nobody. Okay. Please do make a trip once. It will give you many things, out of which the top few things are, it will make you a very humble person. When you stand at the Yamadwara, which is the beginning of the parikrama, forget Yamadwara, when you land on the first point on the banks of Mansarovar, and you get the first glimpse of Sri Kailasha, you will be floored, you will cry. And when you take the parikrama of the Mansarovar, you will stop calling it as Lake Mansarovar. It's not a lake. It is beyond calling a lake. It'll humble you first time. If you take a dip, it'll humble you even more. If you observe, it'll humble you more. The kind of changes and kind of things, activity that happens there. And when you get close to Sri Kailasha and you're at the footsteps, and you're waiting in line for taking the pony help if you can't walk, and once they are assigned, they will start walking and you go after them. Suddenly, the first thing that you'll see is the Yamadwara. That is when reality hits you. So these are all not myth or some kind of a joke that is being talked about. These are real. And you see the mighty Himalayas there, you will be speechless. That's one. And if there's a good guide, you will know the vastness of the overall Himalayas, the overall spread. And you will be shocked to know that there are several people in small caves there, regardless of the temperatures, that are doing tapas. So that should give you an idea. It is not impossible. It is doable. It is achievable. In Tamil, as they say, எல்லாத்துக்கும் ஒரு நேரம் காலம் வரும். Right? There will be a time for everything. So have the patience. It also means that when you join kindergarten, you shouldn't get stressed about graduation. After 16 years, what am I going to be? Will I be a doctor? Will I be an engineer? Will I be able to do this? It took 16 years for each one of us to have a basic degree. So, what you are learning today is concepts. And as I said, it takes time for the concepts to sink in. Then it will take time for you to apply those concepts and develop your own experience and learning. These explanations and mantras will only make that process smoother, easier, and on target. There are different ways of learning. You can throw somebody in a swimming pool and say, no, figure out. Allow that person to drain, dive, whatever it is, and figure out. Old saying is there, Kaveri Thuki Boda, that kid will flap and come back and learn swimming. It doesn't work all the time, right? Sometimes people can drown. So knowing that there is a lifesaver there, knowing that there is those cushions or balloons that are there that will help you stay afloat, gives you some kind of a confidence, although it is not recommended in good old theory of teaching. So use the information today to start soaking it in. Make the right connection, make the right interpretation of what is being told, so that you are familiar with the terminology, the meaning, and the context. Right? Mundaka Upanishad is a good template. Adhe mari there is a Chandogya Upanishad is also there. It is also very interesting. But once you get a full grasp of one part, next time when you read Bhagavad Gita, next time when you read the translation of Chandogya Upanishad or Isha Upanishad or Kena Upanishad, things will start falling in place sooner, because what the dissemination of information is across various documents or scripts on a given topic. Unlike the vertical source of learning, you take sound as one chapter and just dump everything and you're done. Move to light, silos. அதுக்கு பதிலா all of these Upanishads describe the cosmos and nature in a very interesting way, and you will see many of them in different forms and shapes explaining the same aspect. It's like that elephant and 7 people trying to figure out whether it's an elephant or it's a wall or it's a rope or a pillar or a collar. So don't panic. It's not something that you're failing. Your commitment will take you there. That much I can say. And I'm here sitting in front of you, even trying to have the audacity to explain things to an audience means anybody can do it. Right? So அதனால டிட்டாச்மெண்ட்டை பற்றி இப்போ நீங்கள் யோசிக்காதுங்க போனா. So just like your for example, let's say that you're responsible for cooking, right? People expect as a lady you should know cooking. I'm sure your mother would not have given you on day one to prepare medu vadai or chakra pongal or a very complicated, highly skilled recipe, right? She would have taught you to just do one or two things, and that those one or two things will give you that confidence. Yeah, I'm capable of doing it. That you start motivating yourself with small wins. So even if you want to practice whether you can do detachment or not, you just don't have to start taking the big leap. It'll backfire. You just do small wins. Huh?
I'm not talking about leaving the family, getting away.
இல்ல அது புரியுது. அது அவர் ஜோக் அடிக்கிறார். அவர்
I will think, oh, I don't need this. I have so many.
That is fine. And that is a quick win. Not many can do it.
Yes.
Not many can do it. Right? You may make all sankalpams. When you go to Pachayappa or the Kanjipuram store, automatically your eyes will start glowing and you'll buy. It's human.
Yeah. Yes.
But that failure is not something that should disappoint you. The fact that you're thinking about it itself is a good progress, is what I'm saying. So wait patiently for the small wins to happen. That will motivate you and take you to the next level. It's easy to get demotivated and give up. And remember one thing, as I said, husband, wife, son, mother, father, daughter, all karma type of relationships and titles. At the end of the day, you came alone, you'll go alone. You are responsible for your balance sheet. Whether you take another janmam or not, it is entirely up to you. God has given equal opportunity to every one of us. He brought you into this world as a human form with the opening balance and said, X number of breaths in your bank. Much. How you burn it, how you utilize it, how you earn credits, how you maintain the balance between debits and credits is entirely up to you. So tension padadiki pannungo. So much for lecture in terms of advice, but it will fall in place. I can see difference in a few people in the UK India team. They're able to answer. If you watch the YouTube video, you will see. They were also struggling. But now, a couple of them are at least now hitting the spot. It may not be the perfect answer, but they're hitting the spot. Okay? So, after having said that, I will summarize. I'll keep on summarizing. Suddenly, one class, I will summarize all the mantras that we have learned so far. And that will help you in revision. That will help you in again connecting all the dots. The reason why the mantras go slow, instead of saying put every mantra in one paragraph and dump, is not feasible. Come to think of it, you're talking of the understanding the process of creation of a cosmos whose size, scope, capability, we don't even know a small speck of it, right? We don't know. All that we know is sun is there, earth is revolving around the sun, so we get days and nights. We know very peripheral level of information and knowledge. How this whole thing works, how the whole cosmos works as an orchestra. You haven't seen planets clashing into each other in a solar system, right? So what is all this phenomena? Where is all this energy coming from? It takes time. And it cannot be explained in one paragraph or one lecture. Many people come and ask me, oh, tell me what is Hinduism? I said, tell me how many years you can commit to learn. What are you talking about? Is there a website where I can go? I said, the day I develop that website, I'll invite you and make sure that you get free admission. So it is not about a website or a book. It is about understanding a very, very highly complex and sophisticated system. And it is divided into two parts. And today we are going to delve into that. Give me a 5 or 10 minutes extra at the end of the class, because I never thought I have to talk in the beginning so much. Today we will focus on connecting all the dots what we have learned so far. We will have a few more terminologies added, and I will keep then summarizing to make sure that you are able to connect the dots, right? So first, what all things we have learned about us. I shared a table, I shared the Shat Chakra. So do you all remember what all things? We learned about sound, right? The concept of sound. We learned about Akshara. What other things we have learned through the table and the Shat Chakra chart? Make an attempt. Don't worry about wrong answers. Make an attempt.
Paramatma and Jivatma.
Correct. Okay.
And about the physical body.
Correct.
And the various system. And the prana.
Okay.
And
simple போன கிளாஸ்ல நம்ம சொன்னது என்ன பண்ணோம்?
About different stages of sleep.
Correct. Okay. Simple சொன்ன போனாக்க I asked a question last time, if you remember. I said, I'm talking to you. So what if I ask you what is happening now? What will be your answer? All of you can unmute and keep it unmuted. So because you're not too many, it is not going to give an echo or anything. It's easy for you to speak. If I ask you what is happening now, what will be your answer?
We are seeing you, we are listening
to
you.
Correct.
Talking.
Correct. So it's not just
Yeah, the impression it creates in our mind.
Exactly. So அதை கொஞ்சம் structured போடுங்க. All what you are recollecting, try to put it in a very structured way. So you have karmendriyas. Karma means action. So anything that requires action. My hand is moving, it's karma, right? So there is an indriya that makes it happen. Correct? So I use a physical gross body to do that. So karmendriyangiradhu வந்து 5 organs, sensory organs.
Yeah. And there is the I factor, which is the ahankara.
அதுக்கு ஜம்ப் பண்ணாதுங்க, கொஞ்சம் சிஸ்டமேட்டிக்காக போங்க. ஸோ த ஃபிசிக்கல் கிராஸ் பாடி, வி ஆல்வேஸ் செட் தேர் இஸ் அ சட்டில் பாடி இல்லையா? ஸோ இஃப் ஐ ஜஸ்ட் ஹேவ் திஸ் இயர் பிளேஸ்ட் ஆன் அ டெஸ்க்டாப் ஆர் அ டெஸ்க், டு யூ திங்க் இட் இஸ் ஃபங்க்ஷனல்? The ear or the nose or the eye by itself is not functional. So there is a subtle layer that makes it functional. The ear as an organ is there, but sound கேட்கறதுக்கு there is a process that happens. That is Jnanendriya, which is part of the subtle body, right? So there is a process that is happening. You are recording like cameras or mics from various sources constantly, which is done through the sensory organs, and they function because of the subtle body, the Jnanendriyas, and resulting in an impression that is like happens every second, every nanosecond, right? Whatever the lowest form you can think. There's no gap. It's not like your impressions are happening now, but there is a 2-minute gap and again something starts. It is involuntary. As long as you are awake, in a Jagrat state, these impressions keep happening.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
So, they are stored where? They are stored in a memory bank called the Chitta. Right?
Yes.
So, நீங்கள் ரெண்டு பேரும் கொஞ்சம் லேண்ட்ஸ்கேப்பில் போட்டுருங்க, because I'm only seeing a calendar. It looks like I'm talking to the calendar. ஆமாம், பக்கத்தில் உட்காந்துருக்கோம், ஒன்றும் தப்பு இல்லை. ஹஸ்பண்ட் அண்ட் ஒய்ஃப் தானே, என்ன என்னது? பர்ஃபெக்ட், ஓகே, குட். Better, much better. So, the memory which is there as pictures, right? How many of you know what is the principle on which the motion picture works?
It's persistence of vision.
Perfect. பாருங்க, நீங்கள் சொல்கிற ரிட்டென்ஷன் இல்லை, ஞாபகம் இல்லை, எல்லாம் பர்ஃபெக்டாக வருது. So the theory of persistence of vision is anything that your eye sees, it remains in your memory for a certain period of time. So before that gets wiped off and gets blank, if you put one more impression in front, correct? So let us say that I show you this card. This is a static card. Now if I have a series of cards, and in one, let's hold it like this. This is in the angle. The next card, this whole writing is here. The next card, the writing is like this. Correct? And if I pull it at a particular speed, you will feel that this card script is rotating. Actually, it is nothing is rotating. It's just series of impressions that are pulled in front of you in a particular speed. So next time when you look at a camera, you play, or a video, you look at some terminology called FPS. It's called frames per second. So depending on the speed at which that is done, you can achieve certain things. So you see the feeling of motion. So is there a motion? There is no motion. It's a feeling of motion. That's the Maya. That's the illusion that you have. Correct? But that's how we function. So the point here is, those impressions are not static. They don't just remain idle. You attach the I part of it so that it becomes your impression. That is what I explained last time. You are looking at me, each one of you is hearing the same word. You are looking at my face, my shirt, etc., etc. But your own experience will be different amongst the five of you. Not all of you will have the same. And that difference comes in when you are attaching that I, which is individual to each one of you, and makes it as a different experience. சாப்பிட்றதே ஒரே சாம்பார். Each one puts it in his tongue or her tongue. One person will say, oh, it's very hot, very spicy. The other person will say, absolutely, there's no salt. You can add more salt. That difference comes because of the individual I attachment. And the buddhi, or the intellect, is the CPU that runs. It's like the needle on the gramophone record. It processes those impressions and data, and that becomes your personal experience, which you retain, which is part of the learning. So that learning is a cycle, right? Other than what you see, it ultimately becomes your experience. So the key word that you need to hold and remember is experience and sensory organs. That is why you say it's called perceptions, right? No, none of us can say this is the truth. If there is one truth, then everybody should say the same thing. It is hot or spicy or sour or bitter. We don't do that. So it's your perception or your experience on a given situation or a given context. This is simple. And the template that is required is the karmendriya, jnanendriya, the mind, and the prana. Energy is the battery is the prana for all this to function. So if this is understood, it is easy for us to know, which I explained in the last class. There are things that we don't see or don't relate to. We don't hear, we don't relate to. Like if you look at the leaf, you don't look at the sun in the leaf. Without the sun in the leaf, that green color, you will not be able to see the green color. The whole green effect is because of the photosynthesis effect of the sun permeating through the surface of the leaf. If you go back to your botany class, you will know the famous cross-section diagram that is used to teach all of us that. But once you learn that in botany, your appreciation of the same leaf will be different than the person who's never been to school. அதுதான் நீங்க புரிஞ்சுக்கணும். That is exactly what you need to understand. Your ability to see things is again dependent on the sensory organs. So இப்போ what is the tool that you will say that you need an eye, ear or a tongue to know that there is a sun that is permeating through the leaf? It is beyond that sensory organ. Correct? So if I show you a diagram of the earth and constantly the same picture that we all see of the solar system where each planet is shown with a different color, some with the rings, some without the rings, etc., you can relate, oh, this is Saturn, this is Jupiter, this is Pluto, this is Earth, this is Mars, this is Venus. Can you comprehend the darkness in which all of these things are there? You cannot. So all of those things that we are talking about is explained in a simple Sanskrit terminology. Okay, va? So whatever I explained today is with respect to an individual, which is the jiva. So far, so good?
Yes.
Okay, so forget the detachment for some time, Bhuvana.
Okay.
கவலையே படாதுங்க நீங்க எல்லாம். I will take you right to the doorstep of detachment. Then we will have Ram also there, and we'll collectively make a decision. ஆமா.
Okay.
It actually attached.
ஆமா. So you can be attached in the detachment also. அப்படியும் பண்ணலாம். பட் உங்களுக்கு ரெஸ்பான்சிபிலிட்டியெல்லாம் இருக்குது நிறையா. அதனால் அதை பற்றியெல்லாம் இப்போ யோசிக்காதுங்க நிறையா. எப்போதுமே அதுக்கு தான் சொல்கிறேன், கிரகஸ்தாசிரம், விருத்தாசிரம், தென் வானப்பிரஸ்தம், தென் சன்னியாசி. So phases are very clearly defined. அதனால் ரஷ்ஷே பண்ண வேண்டாம். Nobody says, even பூஜை பண்ணுறது மூக்கொண்டு, nobody says that you finish your family life and then do all this stuff. That is not what it is. And if you don't have it, I will share it again. I had shared this thing, sadhana panchakam template, which is really set in my head at what age, where you should be focusing on and what should be your effort, etc., etc. So back to the topic. Understand this structure, right? Everything is, we are saying, dependent on the sensory organs. So your kids, when they ask the question, oh, you talk of all these things, maya, viya, etc., I don't believe. Where is the clinical evidence? No? That is how we are built. That is how we are trained. So for you to understand there is something beyond this, you have to first listen that there is something that exists right there. So there are people who have realized it. I'm using a different term, mark my words. They have realized it. They have gone through a certain path to realize that, and they have shared that knowledge with all of us in the form of various Upanishads and Suktams, etc., etc. So the relevance of why we have to learn all these things is, if I am in the path of moksha and I have to chase moksha, I believe moksha is something that I want. I don't want to go through this torture again and again. At least you should have the knowledge. What is the blueprint? What is the template? So the template starts with what you can see and believe, which is a mortal human being's capability, and understand the tools, put in your faith, utilize those tools, all of those things, meditation, mantra japam, tarpanam, havanam, everything that is being talked about. Understand the energy centers in our body. Understand there is a kundalini. If you practice all of this stuff, slowly you will be able to go down the path towards moksha. You're preparing yourself. Is that a guarantee? No. Also, there was a question that kept coming up in the morning. Moksha is not something that you will get only after death. You can attain moksha or self-realization even when you are alive. So one person said, I've heard a lot about it, I believe it, but I've never met anybody like that. I said, I am thankful to God that I have at least met one. Have you met anybody?
Paramacharya?
Absolutely correct.
I have seen him once in Gulbarga.
Yes. I have visited Kanchipuram every year in my school days. So I've had his darshanam many times.
Yeah.
Adhe Mari, if you're a Ramana Maharishi follower, he is another, realized soul. And they had a lot of respect for each other. Right? So go back in the system of perception sensory organs to go through the path. I've given you the tools, I've given you the methods, practices, etc., etc., etc. I'm also cautioning you. Like, if I tell you, if you go through the turnpike and go to turnpike north, you'll like to know there is a gas station around exit 9 in New Jersey, then there is a service area in exit 12. You need to know that, right? Because you're then better prepared. So adhe mari, if you follow that path, you will see that you go through, you'll realize that you're passing through a forest. Then you'll get the feeling of that you're seeing lights equal to 1,000 suns. This is going to happen if you're down the path. So unless you go realize that experience, you're not on the right path. You're trying something over and over again, it's not working, right? Once you realize what you're being prepared for is that you'll suddenly see all these objects, everything that you are so proud of, that I created, that will disappear. You will realize this is all an illusion, right? So far, so good?
Yeah.
Okay. So now let us quickly jump to one mantra and move forward. And then I'll come back to this illusion concept where you need to learn a few more terminologies. So mantra number 3 is Etasmaj Jayate Prano Manaha Sarvendriyani cha Kham Vayurjyotirapah Prithvi Vishwasya Dharini. So once again, Etasmad Jayate Prano Manas Sarvendriyani cha Kham Vayurjyotirapah Prithvi Vishwasya Dharini. Short one-line meaning of this is, from him, that means the Purusha, the Brahman, are born the prana, the mind, all the sensory organs, and Akash, which is the ether, wind, which is Vayu, fire, water, and the earth that supports it all. Right? Sarvendriyadi means all sensory organs. Prano, prana. Manaha, mind. Vishwasya Dharini. That means the earth that supports it all. So in the summary point, don't try to overanalyze or over remember too many things. From him, the Nirguna Brahman, prana, mind, all the sensory organs, that is a karmendriya, and all the panchabhutas, which is Akash, wind, fire, water, and the earth that supports it all. Earth உங்களுக்கு அந்த tree example எல்லாம் ஞாபகம் இருக்கணும். Clear? That is the short meaning of the mantra. So let us go to slightly elaborate understanding. Last time you heard Nirguna Brahman. You also understood Saguna Brahman. You heard terms like Ishvara, Hiranyagarbha, and Virat. And we will quickly delve into those three terms and what they are. But adukku munnadi, I want to reiterate one aspect over and over again. The lower level knowledge will help you through all your sensory organs and Jnanendriya, Karmendriya, etc., to experience certain things. Keyword again and again I'm hammering. Experience. You experience happiness, you experience joy, you experience sorrow, you experience ecstasy, bliss, etc. It's all experience. Experience revolves around impressions in the memory, processing of those impressions attached to I, the Ahankara. Assuming all are open, nothing is blocking one another, the process is working very smoothly. So, if you don't have consciousness, that means if you are not awake, do you think all of these things will happen? No. So, in the awakened state, Jagrat state is what you get all these things functioning. But when you lie down and go to sleep, what happens is the automobile, if you put your foot on the brake, there is a temporary stop, right? It doesn't shut off the engine, but it puts a temporary stop. As a Madri, imagine that when you lie down and close your eyes, you're pausing all the functions. You don't want to hear anything. You switch off the light and you close your eyes. You stop talking. You start eating. Stop eating. Right? You're pausing all the systems. Karmendriya. So there's nothing new to process. But what happens is whatever during the day you have seen, you have experienced, starts getting projected in the swapna state. That is what you see as dreams. And quite a few of you, if you have had dreams, I'm sure you would wake up in the morning and recount those dreams with a lot of clarity. You'll vividly recount those dreams. That is the swapna state. In the sushupti state, it's called deep sleep. You don't even know what happened. Do any one of you have any experience of recounting what happened there? Mudiyadu. But as soon as you open your eyes, start listening to the alarm, it comes back where you left off. You remember your name, where you are, what's your gotram, what happened yesterday, what is the plan for today, what are the meetings lined up, where you have to go, what breakfast to eat, what fight you had last night. Everything comes like a jiffy. That's a beauty. We are still talking about three states. The fourth state, which is called the Turiya state, is only the realized state which realized people will be able to share what it is. So, from one angle, from the consciousness angle, I'm giving you the context. From the Shat Chakra angle, I told you, only when your Kundalini reaches the Vishuddhi Chakra, you will see the Sahasra thousand light seen, and you will see life differently, the world and the cosmos differently. So, here, whatever we see as forms of matter, whether it is gross or subtle, whether it is external or internal, they are states that are peculiar to the respective modes of the consciousness. So far, so good. So, the universe, which includes all the subjects and objects, is only a condition supported by the absolute. This whole thing is supported by the absolute, which is the ultimate truth, on the basis of which experiences, appearances are experienced. Right? To some, they may see their husband as old, wife as fat. To some, the same parameters can mean different things. So that is why we keep saying it is the experience. And for all this, you need that cognitive function, without which there is no reality. So, taking it one level further, I talked about the concept of Ishvara, Hiranyagarbha, and Virat. Can any one of you tell me what do you know about all these three things? Whatever you know, right or wrong.
Hiranyagarbha is something within the earth, or
Ishvara is
Hiranmayim is water, right?
So let's go one by one.
Yes.
So if you take any Upanishad or any Bhagavad Gita or any scripture that you have read or you have heard, everybody makes it very clear that the absolute truth, that which is formless, shapeless, characterless, or any kind of a definition, it's not subject to any kind of definition, is the absolute truth or the Nirguna Brahman or the Purusha. It is also important to understand that was not created by something. So that is the starting point. So just remember the keywords. That is the starting point. It's not the cause of something else that always existed. That Nirguna Brahman, when that Brahman thought or desired to become many, thought or desired to become many, in Sanskrit, if you have heard that statement, Eko Aham Bahushyam. Eko Aham Bahushyam. Eko means one, Aham means Bahushyam, means many. You will ask the question, it is illogical. You said that the Nirguna Brahman doesn't have any sensory organs or any of those capabilities. So how can that Nirguna Brahman think or desire, right? So that is where in Gita, if you've heard of Gita translation, if you followed closely, Lord Krishna says, I create things with the help of my Maya. So that power, illusory power called Maya, is used by Nirguna Brahman to create things. Simple now. So that Maya or the illusory power has got three qualities, three gunas that we know. Right? Sattva, Rajas, and Tamoguna. So Brahman, when the power of Maya, when has the power of Maya, is called Ishvara or Saguna Brahman. So Nirguna Brahman, when has the power of Maya, is called Ishvara or Saguna Brahman. So there are different schools in the different technical details. I'll spare it. I shared it in the morning, but I don't want to overwhelm you now. So we have to remember that Ishvara is a Brahman that is endowed with the power of Maya. And when Brahman can be associated with the power, that is adding the clause illusory, which means it is not real, to the power of Maya.
In the last class, we saw the Nirguna Brahman is Paramatma, the Saguna Brahman is Jivatma.
Correct. So I'm coming to that.
Okay.
So at least from the Nirguna Brahman, now we have understood what makes it a Saguna Brahman, correct?
with the Maya.
Yes, the moment you attach Maya, the illusory power, it becomes Ishvara or the Saguna Brahman. And that Ishvara is the cause for creation. Now we are talking of cause and effect. So when creation starts, it first gets developed into a subtle plane. Subtle plane. The subtle plane is called Pancha Tanmatras. Please remember that word and nail it down. Pancha Tanmatras, which is Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. Now you'll have to hook yourself to the table.
Sparsha.
You have the table, no? 5x5 table that I've shared in the group.
Yes.
So, in the Jnanendriya line, you will see Shabda, Sparsha, Rasa, Rupa, Gandha. So, this is the subtle plane that gets created. But this is not the elements that we perceive, but they are the essence of the Panchabhutas. The Panchabhutas are Akasha, Vayu, Prithvi, Jala, Agni. Correct? Yeah. So you have that in the table again. So I ask a question in the morning, I will ask you the same question. Why this sequence was followed? Why first Pancha Tanmatras and then Pancha Bhutas? As I said, if I just take my ear and keep it on the desktop, it's of no use. So there's no point in creating that Pancha Bhutas, right? Unless you have the processing software or operating software or capability ready. That is why that sequence.
Sensory first.
Okay, va? So the Ishvara created Pancha Tanmatras, from Tanmatras, Pancha Bhutas. So the Ishvara that creates the subtle entities, that Ishvara that creates the subtle entities, which has got the Tanmatras and the Antakaranas. Antakaranas are the Anta means internal, of the mind, intellect, ego, and Chitta. Right? Manas, Buddhi, Ahankara, which is the ego, and Chitta, which is the memory bank. Correct? These are all in the subtle plane. This Ishvara is called Hiranyagarbha. Simple to understand? No?
Purusha with Maya is
Ishvara
the Ishvara which
that creates that Ishvara that creates the subtle plane of Pancha Tanmatras or operating system Vichingo software is called Hiranyagarbha. Clear? So now follow the branch. It is also termed as Mahat Tattva as per the Sankhya school of philosophy. In case somebody is geeky, wants to take note, you can take note. So this is the first creation from Ishvara, the subtle things. So subtle things cannot be enjoyed and cannot exist as such unless they become gross, the gross body, the gross component. So you have the software, but there's no hardware associated with it. Abdina in the prajanam. Yeah, so the hardware now comes into place. The subtle elements become gross as panchabhutas, which we perceive. This Ishvara that creates or identifies himself with the gross world is called Virat. So, Nirguna Brahman associated with Maya or the illusionary power that gets the ability for the Brahman to create things is Ishvara. Ishvara creating the subtle things is Hiranyagarbha. Ishvara associated with Tanmatras or the subtle things is Hiranyagarbha. Ishvara associated with the gross elements of the Panchabhutas is called Virat. Virat in literal terms means huge, massive. Okay. Now, whatever I described, I'm sure you would be relating so far to the individual level. But honestly, I was explaining you all of these things at the cosmic level. So, we expanded the whole concept of Paramatma at the cosmic level right now in the last 10 minutes. Okay. There is a photostat copy of the whole process happening at the individual level. Yeah. அவரோட அம்சம் தானே நம்ம.
Jivatmas.
ஸோ அதில் என்ன இப்போது நீங்கள் ஹியூமன்ஸாக இருக்க 2 கண்ணு 2 காது ஒரு மூக்கு எல்லாம் இருக்குது, ரைட்? உங்களுக்கு பிறக்கிற குழந்தைக்கு அதே தானே இருக்கும். ஸோ அப்ளை த சிம்பிள் கான்செப்ட்ஸ். ஸோ வாட் எவர் வி ஆர் டாக்கிங் ஆஃப் அட் த காஸ்மிக் லெவல் is what is reflected at the individual level. Please understand the connection. At the class level, when I talk about Hiranyagarbha at the cosmic level, I'll also tell you what part of the cosmos is head, what part is called the foot. அப்போ உங்களுக்கு அந்த காஸ்மிக் லெவலில் விஷுவலைஸ் பண்ணுறதுக்கு ஈஸியாக இருக்கும். But for now, just understand the elements. So from the macro level to the micro level, this is the connection. It's a reflection, it's the same. So in Vedanta, they call it as Vyashti, which is individual. And when you call it as Samashti, it is cosmic. In the Shakta form, Upasana, or the Shakta system, it's called Pinda Andam and Brahma Andam. Pinda means small, Brahma means huge. Andam means body. Pinda means individual. Brahma means total or cosmic. So once again, Ishvara, the causal form, Hiranyagarbha, the subtle form, Virat is the gross form. And Ishvara is the unmanifested form of Brahman. So the unmanifested or the Abhyaktam, if you're finding it difficult, just forget the terms. I'm just giving the terms for those who are interested. The unmanifested or the Abhyaktam is manifested in the form of Hiranyagarbha or the subtle body. And the world is created by Ishvara. The creation happens in Hiranyagarbha. The creation happens in Hiranyagarbha. And it is manifested as gross elements. So when you see all those matter of Earth, planet, moon, Saturn, Venus, Jupiter, etc., they are the gross elements. The manifestation in the gross form. And all this creation happens in the space called Hiranyagarbha. அதே தான் உங்களுக்கு ஹியூமன் ஃபார்மில் இண்டிவிஜுவல் லெவலில் நமக்கு ரிஃப்ளெக்ட் ஆகுது. புரியுதா? ஓகே, குட். ஸோ இதுலேருந்தே நீங்கள் அனலைஸ் பண்ணினீங்கன்னா the individual ஜீவா will follow the same process. இதில் வந்து there are 3 terminologies that you need to know, which mostly will be the last bit of terminology that I'll be throwing at you. At the individual level, the causal form is called prajna. The subtle form is called taijasa. The gross form is called vishwa.
One is prajna. What is the other one?
Yeah, please repeat the second one and the third one.
Prajna is causal form. Taijasa, tejas nu sollradhu, taijasa is the subtle form. Vishwa is the gross form. I'll keep repeating it. So kavalapadango. So the jiva starts from the same place like Ishvara. When it is associated with the power of avidya or ignorance, it's called prajna. This jiva is present in the deep sleep state, where there is only ignorance and nothing else. And it's also called the karana sharira. That's why it's called as a causal form. So இப்போ அதே parallel கொடுத்துட்டு வரேன். Consciousness of the stateக்கும், the process of all the karmendriya, jnanendriya, gross form, subtle form, etc. I'm translating it at the cosmic level, now at the individual level. Now this karana sharira, the causal form, is responsible for the other two states. Yeah, Ishvara, at the cosmic level, we said Ishvara is responsible for Hiranyagarbha, which is subtle. Ishvara is responsible for Virat, which is the gross. Same thing at the individual Jiva. Prajna is the cause for Taijasa and Vishwa branch. So the causal ignorance, which is Prajna, adilende, there are desires arising. That happens at the subtle level or the dream world, in the Swapna world. Okay, va? So that Jiva, which is associated with the subtle body, is called Taijasa. Taijasa means illumining. More like Tejas, that's what it means. It's illumining, which represents that the Jiva illumines himself as self-luminous in dream, not requiring any other light. So when you're dreaming, you don't put extra lights, LED lights, fluorescent light, right? You don't need any external light. Now, these subtle desires are made gross, and gross body is formed. The Jiva that is associated with the gross body in the waking state is called Vishwa. So, Ishvara creates the world using the power of Maya. Jiva experiences the world because of Avidya. Avidya is the ignorance at the individual level, and Maya is the totality of Avidya. So during the waking state, Jiva experiences the world through the body, mind, and the senses. So you have to understand the connect between the body and the mind and the senses. So the mind or the subtle body is the effect of ignorance or avidya, which is prajna. In the waking state, the desire comes to mind because of avidya. Because you don't have the knowledge or ignorance is there, the desire comes into play and it puts it into action through the body. So the body acts as the instrument for the interaction with the world. So whatever we see, hands, legs, sensory organs, everything is the instrument for interaction with the world. And this identification of self with the gross body is called Vishwas. So, since there is no duality, we believe we understand the principle of non-duality. During deep sleep, one experiences only bliss. But still there is ignorance in that state. So, I've given you a lot of terminology. I've given you the context. I've given you the layers. Right? If required, we will summarize this one more time. If I ask you a question, from this whole practical lab concept, if you have to go to the Turiya state, which will involve you going through a forest and 1,000 suns light, etc., and reach a particular state, what is the keyword that should come to your mind? Immediate, short answer. Enna varana?
Could you repeat the question?
So I described the whole structure of a gross body with Jnanendriya, a gross body, subtle body, etc. I connected it with the consciousness state, Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti, etc. in one package. The other package, I also told you that when you are in the path of moksha, you will definitely see forest, the path through the forest, and path through the 1,000 sun light before you say, yes, I have attained moksha. That is the other side of the story. ஸோ இதில் வந்து நம்ம சொல்லிகிட்டே இருக்கோம் எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸ் திஸ் மை எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸ் டுடே. ஐ எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸ் ஹாப்பினஸ், சாரோ, ஹாரர் எல்லாம் இல்லையா? இட்ஸ் ஆல் எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸ். ஸோ இஃப் ஐ ஹவ் டு டாக் அபவுட் த அதர் சைட், what should be the keyword that should come to your mind? You're close to the answer. You're close to the answer. So, but what is the proper keyword? Manivan, நீங்க என்ன சொன்னீங்க?
Paramatma.
Aha. Okay. Paramatma is fine. That is also a correct answer in a context. But what is the keyword? The keyword is realization.
The jiva has to go from prajna to
Realization.
Yeah. The keyword is realization.
Okay.
Yenna, you don't have prana, you don't have mind, you don't have the sensory organs, the panchabhutas, the panchatanmatras. அப்போ நீங்க எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸ் பண்ண முடியாது. You have to realize.
Yes, because you don't have the system there.
Correct. The hardware software is not there. Right? இப்போ if you find this a little difficult to understand, just go to your common statement. You say you experience happiness and sorrow. So somebody asks you a question. Oh, what made you happy? Yeah, I saw a jackpot. That gave me happiness. Or I drank something. It gave me happiness. I lost something, so I'm sorrow. You're describing your experience, which you can practically relate to. Somebody else can relate to it because they're also a human being. But have you ever been successfully able to explain to somebody when you use the term, I realize my mistake? Padmaji, very important question. Have you ever been able to explain to somebody,
I'm thinking.
I realized my mistake through the eye, or I realized my mistake through the ears, or I tasted something, or I realized my mistake? No. When you use the term realization, none of these,
Can't explain.
yeah, so none of these things are required. So that is why it is called self-realization. It's not called self-experience. Self-realization means you realize yourself beyond the realm of the gross body, subtle body, and the desires. You're reversing the process. Whatever I told you, Ishvara lende eppadi inja gross body ku varelo, you just reverse the process.
So you can't describe it.
Correct? So on the or state liyo, you have to remember the keywords. In this state, there is no nirguna. In this state, with the power of Maya, it becomes Saguna or Ishvara. From Ishvara comes the Tanmatra, the subtle body. From Ishvara comes the Virat, which is the gross. This is at the cosmic level. The same thing if you apply it to Jiva. We have Prajna, Taijasa, and Vishwa. Very easy, no? And the same thing you attach it to the three consciousness state. Why are you laughing? Is it not easy?
Now it is easy. 2 weeks later.
You won't even remember the keyword.
So you play this YouTube video and take notes. You play the YouTube video and take notes. Until I write the dossier, I promise you I will make the dossier and give it to you. So you will not lose anything since you have invested valuable time. Okay, va? And adala venumna I will even attach pramanas.
Well explained.
Huh? Enide? What were you
I
saying?
can describe this class. It is like, this is like agarbatti. We can see the agarbatti at the start, beginning. Then after that, like at the end, like we can only feel the fragrance we can see. That is what I'm
Yes. So again, key word is when we are living in the present. The moral of the story is when we are talking about present at this moment, if you are unable to control your mind and you are thinking about the past or you're worried about the future, you lose that present. So all of this should give you enough wake-up call to say, let me first absorb the present. If you don't absorb that present, there is nothing in impression in the memory bank. So right now, this moment which is present will become past very soon. So if you don't have anything to impression to store, you feel that there is nothing to retain because you're not focusing on the present. So when I'm talking about today detachment, don't worry about when you're going to do it, how you're going to do it. First thing is operating system and the hardware. God has given the hardware, condition the hardware through meditation, practice, yoga, etc., where you are able to maintain the fitness. Conditioning of the mind is essential to not let it wander and focus. And when you realize and recognize all of these things, you are able to balance everything in life. You deal with happiness and sorrow, you deal with hot and cold, everything, and not get rattled. It's like you're maintaining your lane on the turnpike. Then you'll make progress. But at the turnpike, when you're driving in, let's say, pass through exit 8, you must focus on next exit is 9. If the rest area is only on exit 12, you got to be patient, but you need to have the knowledge, because don't you think that you keep an eye on that? If your fuel level is low, or if you want to go to a restroom, you keep knowledge. They give you a board, right? If you miss this one, the next 35 miles there is no other restroom. So the knowledge is important. What is there ahead of us? What is the path? That familiarity is essential. So just because there is a restroom or rest area 35 miles later, you can't get restless now. That's a very simple language I can give you as an analogy. So absorb and soak what you're getting in today. If required, do revision, replay, etc., etc. When in doubt, ask a question. It's all our class. There is no structured curriculum or rush to finish certificate or degree in a particular time. Right? We can revise and say, okay, let's go through this one more time. And when you hear it a couple of times, when you take notes and read it at your own leisure, you will start feeling that everything is falling in place. But keyword is, remember, all of this is within the limitation of the sensory organs and tanmatras. If you want to experience other things, it is beyond that. So the final keyword that I was trying to tell you is, the reverse is true. The moment you do the detachment, you throw away the desires, you are going in that right direction. From this side of the story to the direction of self-realization. That is the key. Okay, well, so I know I've taken 10-15 extra minutes because we started a little late. I hope it was useful. Please watch the YouTube. And I hope all the audio, video, everything is correct. And anytime you feel any questions, feel free to message. The group can be used to ask questions also. It doesn't have to be just class communication. Anything related to the topics, you can always ask.